patience. Distinguished participants, we are joined by our special guest, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed, MP, Member Parliamentary Standing Committee for Finance. So thank you so much for finding some time for us this morning. From the Asia Foundation and Rapid, we'd like to express our sincere gratitude to you for finding it convenient to join. And we also have today highly respected and country's noted economist as our designated panel discussants, Dr. Nazeen Ahmed, who is with the Undp as its country economist, and Professor Mustafizur Rahman, another leading economist of the country, distinguished fellow, Center for Policy Dialogue, which is one of the main think tanks based in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Ms. Sofia Shakil, Director Economic Programs, the Asia Foundation. Mr. Kazi Faisal bin Siraj, Country Representative, the Asia Foundation. My good colleague, Dr. Abu Eusuf, who is also a Professor of Development Studies at Dhaka Universities. Other distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. It is indeed a great pleasure and privilege for me to welcome you all to this webinar organized jointly by the Asia Foundation and the Research and Policy Integration for Development Rapid. And its title is Journey Towards Inclusive Growth, Challenges and Policy Imperatives for Bangladesh at 50 and Beyond. And we all know the background, which is pretty obvious. We are celebrating the 50th year of our independence. And Bangladesh has many, many achievements to highlight on this glorious occasion of the nation. The nation started off with a war-devastated, fragile social economic condition, as you know. And it was then characterized by severe poverty and human deprivation. And also the fact is the frequent natural disasters and political instability also added to the already precarious and I would say extremely vulnerable socioeconomic fabric of the country. So from that kind of situation, Bangladesh has gone really, really a long way. So gradually this remarkable success story has been built. And this is now reflected in many things. For example, in the sustained economic growth, and which has been pretty robust, over the recent decade. And in 1995, I can give you these statistics, quite startling. In 1995, the size of the overall economy was only $35 billion. And this has now gone up to $411 billion. Pretty sizable economy, even within the context of the global landscape.
Sorry,
now, the success,
Dr. Razaque, was there supposed to be a PowerPoint that you were?
No, Professor, I'm just making my initial intervention.
My bad. Sorry.
No problem. But anyway, thanks for asking. But the success is also about the impressive health and educational attainment that Dr. Yusuf will be talking about. The success has also been about strong export and remittance boom. And also we have seen Bangladesh is known for its prudent macroeconomic management. Over time, we have built improved capacity to tackle those disasters that we see. I mean, both the natural disaster for which Bangladesh is known. Now we have developed this capacity to manage it well. And of course, Bangladesh has been amongst a success case of promoting gender empowerment. So there is this celebration for golden jubilee of our independence. But at the same time, I must say, Bangladesh is also about a vibrant civil society.
Honourable Minister joined.
Thank you. Please. Thank you,
please, sir.
Let's go and disrupt. Okay, please.
So thank you. I would like to recognize your presence and thank you, sir, finding some time for us. And as you know, your presence is always a blessing for us. Our chief guest, Mr. Mannan MP, Honourable Minister for Planning. As I was mentioning about some of the success story of Bangladesh, we have done so well in terms of our GDP, poverty alleviation, impressive health and educational attainment, our export performance, macroeconomic management. and also about our capacity now of handling natural disaster and promoting gender empowerment. And we are in a good position to celebrate this, our golden jubilee of our independence, which is the 50th year of our independence. Now, as I was mentioning, Bangladesh is also about a vibrant civil society. And over the years, we have developed a community which is eager to pursue objective assessments to derive practical policy lessons. And I would like to emphasize a lot on this particular issue. And in today's webinar, one important issue that we'd like to highlight is the problem of growing inequality in our economy and society, how to deal with this. Distinguished participants, I'm sure you will all agree with me. For any mature, strong economy, it is not about only to highlight the success, but also to better understand the challenges that are emerging and how to deal with this. I mean, this is something that every economy should do in order to move forward. And I think from RAPID, the Research and Policy Integration for Development, our view is that the best way to celebrate our Golden Jubilee and our economic success thus far is to be determined about tackling inequality. I mean, which has been the sole reason for Bangladesh, one of the main reasons for Bangladesh's independence, coming out as an independent nation. And the significance of rising inequality that we see in our society now often gets cramped under the weight of the growth and other broad economic development narratives. So that is why in this webinar, we'll put a spotlight on the issue of growing inequality. So with this short preamble, please allow me now to proceed through the program for the webinar. And therefore, at this stage, I would like to request Ms. Sofia Shakil of the Asia Foundation to make her welcome remarks. Ms. Sofia Shakil.
Thank you, Dr. Razzaque. Good afternoon, and a very, very warm welcome to our Honourable Chief Guest, Honourable Minister of Planning, as well as the Honourable Member, Parliamentary Standing Committee for Foreign Affairs, and to our panelists, as well as all of our participants today. So I'm Sofia Shakil, I was introduced as Director of the Economic Programs at the Asia Foundation. I am from Pakistan and I'm based in the Philippines. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of context for why we thought that we should work together with RAPID to support such a policy note. As we all know and we've heard, Bangladesh has made remarkable achievements. And, there are some very important challenges that it is tackling that will ensure that it transitions to upper middle income country status in less than a decade. One thing that I do want to share is just a brief remark before we hand over to Dr. Yusuf for his, excellent, to present his excellent policy note that he's prepared. When I first started working, my first encounter in Bangladesh was when I used to work with the World Bank, and I worked on the Female Secondary Stipend Assistance Program. This is back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was, it is such a, at that time, all evidence showed that investing in girls' education was going to yield long-term benefit. And no doubt, Bangladesh is the success story of having demonstrated that. I mean, for me, I strongly believe that investing in human development, especially girls' education, has a lot of spillover impact as well as long-lasting benefits on economic growth. And Bangladesh is an example for all of us in the region and beyond of how that can be achieved. So today, I really think that we are very lucky to have RAPID, who have partnered with us to unpack some of these achievements in its remarkable journey to its 50 years of development and shed light on what it will take to continue this kind of growth, but focusing on inclusive economic development going forward. I'm not going to take up much more time because I think we have a very rich afternoon ahead of us. So I'm just going to hand over to Dr. Yusuf to launch into the keynote presentation.
Sophia, thank you so much. I think before we move into Dr. Yusuf's presentation, Professor Yusuf, I think at this stage we'd like to show the video. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So I would request you to show the video, and then we'll get into your presentation. Sophia, thank you so much.
Visible?
Thank you. Professor Yusuf, you can now have your main presentation before us. Thank you.
So, can you see?
Yes, I mean, we can see the screen. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Razzaque. Basically, this video has been developed by Dr. Razzaque. So grateful to Dr. Razzaque for preparing this wonderful video. I think hope you all enjoyed this video, which is basically the summary of this today's presentation. So I will try to make my presentation brief. Respected Chief Guest, Honourable Minister, Mr M A Mannan MP, who is very always remain close in our heart. So grateful to sir. Our special guest, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed MP, who is also member of Parliament and also member Parliamentary Standing Committee on Ministry of Finance. There are two distinguished panelists, our very respected, our mentor, Dr. Mustafizur Rahman sir, and a good friend of mine, very famous economist working in UNDP, Dr. Nazeen Ahmed, moderator, Dr. Razzaque, and Sofia Shakil from Asia Foundation, Director Economic Development, Mr. Kazi Faisal bin Shiraz, Country Representative, Asia Foundation, and the respected guest. Thank you very much for joining us on such an important issues on inclusive growth. So we are grateful to Asia Foundation, particularly Sofia Shakil, Kazi Faisal bin Shiraz, and Aini Islam for their wonderful support, and also our team, Dr. Razzaque and Rabiul Islam Rabi, for their excellent support. Already covered in the video and also covered by Dr. Razzaque that Bangladesh is one of the consistent performer in attaining GDP growth rate. And also now we are working on beyond growth rate, how we can make our growth inclusive, and also even in the COVID situation, we managed well in the macroeconomic level. And also, if you look at, we started with, say, for $8 billion before 50 years, and now it is around $350 billion, which is, I think, remarkable progress over the 50 years in terms of development. And also, if we look at even in the COVID situation, if we compare with our neighboring countries, so Bangladesh also obtained 3.6% GDP growth rate. Even our neighboring country, India, experienced negative GDP growth rates. So I think, this macroeconomic stability proved on this situation. And Bangladesh is highly successful in reducing poverty in a significant manner. And also Bangladesh is working on, attaining sustainable development goals. Recently, Bangladesh received SDC Progress Award. So I must congratulate Bangladesh government and our dynamic leadership, Honourable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, for this brilliant achievement. So though we have some successful in reducing poverty in a significant manner, as mentioned by Dr. Razzaque, that is some challenges, most of the important challenges to address inequality, and also addressing poverty at the regional level. Maybe we have some success at the macro level, but we need to work at the micro level. And also we have some success. We look at the gender perspective, and also to some extent we are investing in female health and education for long term, which has been translated into long term positive outcomes. That was reflected in the Global Gender Gap Report 2021, and on which Bangladesh is on top in the South Asia. I think Bangladesh deserves special thanks for this. So whatever the success we have some best practices, we have some success, but we are also working on, and we are passing a transition period from moving from a LDC country to developing country. And a couple of days back, United Nations already approved our graduation, and which is expected to be graduated in 2026, which is also a milestone in the development arena for Bangladesh. So now we are working, we are passing a transition period, and we are making some innovative strategy, and we are making this time, that is 5 years time, fruitfully, so that we can successfully graduate and we can sustain at the end. Along with this, we have some long-term milestone, like securing upper middle income country in 2031, becoming high income country in 2041, along with achieving sustainable development goals. So we have some challenges, we are challenges to make growth inclusive and for inclusive development. So one of the challenges rising inequality, and if you look at the graph and also shown in the video, that richest 5% people, they are owner of 27% resources, while poorest 5% people, they are owner of only 0.23% of the resources. So addressing inequality is very, very important issues to make it growth inclusive. And also, as we mentioned, that is regional disparity in poverty reduction. And there are some pocket areas, some district, that is around 7 district, their poverty incidence is more than 50%. On the other hand, there are 9 districts, poverty incidence less than 10%. So we have some high achiever, and also we have some low achiever districts. So if we want to ensure no one will be left behind, ensure sustainable development goals, so we need to bring these segments of the people also in the forefront of development. And also, there is no denying fact that due to COVID situation, temporarily poverty increased, maybe from 20% to 30 to 35%, and we are now recovering. I still believe that it is temporarily in nature, and hope we will be reinstating and we will be back our own position again in terms of poverty, and finally we will be successful in attaining GDP growth rate, and to make GDP with inclusive growth and combining with poverty reduction, and also achieving SDG number 1, there will be no poverty by 2030. And also, one issue, that is inequality is also evident in educational outcomes in different regions. So if you look at our national level literacy rate, 65%, and average in the rural and urban area, 63% and 70% respectively. But there are some areas like Rangpur, Sylhet, Rajshahi, Mymensingh, they are far below the average. So we need to address these issues also to make our development sustainable. And also there is some impact on of the pandemic that is likely to exacerbate the inequality situation, because it has an impact on increasing dropout rate, and also there are some child marriage issues, there are some migration issues, and also newly created poverty issues. So I think we need to address these issues as well. And also, if we look at our, we have some successful, I think Bangladesh is one of the successful case addressing, reducing infant mortality rate, reducing maternal mortality rate, and reducing under 5 mortality rate in a significant manner. But still, we have some challenges addressing, say, for nutritional indicators like underweight, stunting, and wasting. So this should be addressed as well. And so what are the underlying factors contributing to rising inequalities? So we need to use the policy instruments successfully to make our growth, proper growth, and make our growth inclusive. And also, there is one important issue included financial inclusion. So Bangladesh is also doing good, but we have some challenges, particularly in the resource mobilization. So Bangladesh has a lowest tax GDP ratio in the world, only 9%. So there is a huge scope for improvement resource mobilization. So this is one area, and also we need to not too much dependence on indirect taxes. Rather, we need to broaden up our tax net, and also automation of the tax net, so that government can get right revenue from the taxpayers money. So overall tax revenue is only provide for a limited fiscal space. So there is a scope for improvement, and also average benefit of social protection program is marginal. Though we are spending 3% of our GDP on social protection, but if we exclude government pension and some subsidy in the saving certificate, so it is slightly over 2%. So I think we need to invest more on social protection, and also we need to scaling up our social protection coverage and also social protection benefit, so that it has an impact on poverty reduction. And also we need to focus on quality education, because there is a skill gap, and we need to produce productive graduate, we need to produce capable graduate. And that's why this is one of the challenges. As you know, around 500,000 mid-level overseas workers, they are working at the mid-level officials, but they are taking also $6-7 billion a day. So we need to utilize our demographic dividend. We need to invest for skill development of our youth as well. And our public spending on education is about 2%, but from the UNESCO prescription that we need to spend at least 4% of our GDP on education as well. And also public health spending, out of pocket expenditure is 72%, which is targeted to reduce it 32%. So we need to work on it. And if we look compare with other countries, it has some effect on poor and disadvantaged groups. So we need to address these issues as well. So, and as I mentioned, that if we look at SDG 8, decent work and productive employment, so we need to invest, we need to give attention on creating productive jobs. And Bangladesh government has planned to set up 100 special economic zone. Already 15 to 20 they are in place, 28 high-tech park already in place, and through this we need to create job opportunity, and we need to attract foreign investment also. And our jobs are highly concentrated in the informal sector, so we need to engage them in the formal sector, and we need to make them skilled so that we can send them abroad. And there are huge potentials in the overseas market also, if we could make them skilled. And one of the windows, if you ask me, one of the innovations for Bangladesh, bringing women in the forefront of development, that has been reflected in the global gender gap index. Despite this initiative, 36% women participate in the labor market. So labor force participation, it is very low, and we need to bring this up by scaling up, and to make them training and their capacity development also. And also, Bangladesh is one of the most affected country due to climate change, and there are some vulnerable areas, and there are some coastal regions. So coastal regions specific, we need to provide access to resources over there. We need to address their livelihood increase. in the coastal regions also. So this is one of the area that we need to focus on. So whatever we have covered, that is, we need to have effective taxation. That is a huge tax reform, so that our resource mobilization could be up, and also we need to focus on adequate productive job creation, strengthening social protection system. We need to address gender disparity across the board, and also climate change mitigation and adaptation issues. And we are under umbrella of 8 5-year plan at this moment. And if we give attention, and if we make our institutions strong, and if we make, say, for there are 3 I's: infrastructure, innovation, and industrialization, SDG 9, then that will also help for our smooth LDC graduations, and there will be some preference of erosion. And then we need to prepare ourselves, and we need to enhance our capacity to face the changing circumstances due to COVID situation, and also upcoming graduation. And then it is, if we focus on creative productive jobs, strengthening social protection system, and also you see that it has direct link with the sustainable development goals. And we are talking about whole of society approach. So not only government responsibility, I think as mentioned by Dr. Razzaque, that we have a vibrant civil society organization. So with the support of media, with the support of other civil society organization, development partners, I think we can utilize our resources efficiently. As you know, that Asia Foundation, they have been working for long in the Asian region, particularly Bangladesh, on economic development issues, on women access to finance, enhancing access to finance for women development, and also women empowerment issues. They are working on enhancing governance issues, strong governance. So in different arena, I think Asia Foundation, they can continue their study, and also they are pioneer in working in the leather sector, economic development sector, and also today's webinar also, this is one of the mark of their contribution. So we are grateful to Asia Foundation, particularly Sofia Shakil and Kazi Faisal bin Shiraz. But I think they can work on capacity building ahead of LDC graduation. They can invest some resources on research and sensitization regarding the role of public spending, generate evidence on regional inequality, and also explore approaches for reforming tax policy to tackle inequality, and also identify policy measures and practical actions that help improve women labor force participation. So with this presentation, I think I am hopeful that Bangladesh will be having inclusive growth. Bangladesh will not be in the developing country trap. Successfully, Bangladesh will sustain when it will be graduated as a developing country, and whatever the milestone ahead of us, 2031, 2041, and at the end, we need to have a inclusive development. We will bring everyone in the development process. So thank you very much for your patient sharing. Thank you, honorable guests, panelists, and participants, and particularly Asia Foundation for their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yusuf. I thought there was a good presentation, and it has set the ground quite well for the subsequent discussions. I would now like to invite Dr. Nazeen Ahmed, country economist, UNDP, for her comments. Nazeen has written and researched a lot on these issues, and I'm sure we'll all benefit from her remarks. Nazeen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Razzaque. Thanks to Rapid and Asia Foundation for inviting me to this important webinar. Honorable Chief Guest, panelist Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, and all others, good afternoon. At this moment, I'm actually in Hobiganj, We know that our chief guest, the Honourable Minister, is from broader Sylhet area, and I'm now in his area. And actually, I'm attending what Professor Yusuf made a wonderful presentation, and he explained the situation, which more or less we know from the recent times discussion, especially in context of LDC graduation and our growth and our plan towards beyond graduation and to become a higher middle income country. So in that context, these issues are coming in different discussion. So we know the context, but now the question is, how do we achieve what Professor Yusuf suggested as in recommendation? How do we achieve this equality? This is, I think, if we look at the main focus of the 8th five-year plan, if there is one single thing that is, I mean, all the activities planned there is moving towards, it's to make growth work for all people, make growth work for underprivileged people. So I cannot cover all the topics. So I was just thinking, if we consider like 3 broad sectors: agriculture, industry, services, how do we, where do we concentrate in terms of reducing inequality? So I will touch upon few things rather than covering all things in a broader way. I will touch upon few things where we can work and we can contribute. As I was saying, at this moment, Undp has organized a workshop under the Shopno project. Shopno project is a big project that we are working with the government. And here we have brought women entrepreneurs, we have brought financial institutions, we have brought relevant ministry people, we have brought Bangladesh Bank people, and we are all together to discuss for next 2 days, starting in this late afternoon today, about how through this project we can reach more micro-level women entrepreneurs in terms of empowering them, in terms of giving them finance, in terms of creating broader, marketing opportunities for them, connecting them with different online platforms. So this is about, again, reducing inequality. So these are the kind of attempts we need. And in that context, as I was saying, I will just discuss few things on our broad sectors where we can take action to reduce inequality. First, agriculture. If we look at agriculture, we have achieved a lot, but in many cases, this benefit has reached the large farmers and especially the owner of the land, who often are not farmers. So if in agriculture, if we want to reduce inequality, one of the area where we need to work on is to connect the marginal and very small farmers with new technology and market opportunities. For example, the small farmers often do not have their own land, even if they have, that is very small, and they are, cultivating rented land. So I think if we can give them, connect them with better technology and the marketing, then even with that small holding lands that they have, they can earn better. So it's very important in the agriculture that we take, and technology does not mean only machines, it's also the technology in terms of high value crops, in terms of diversifying the production and making crops resilient to different disasters. So this is very important that we link small farmers in that. And how can we do that? We have to utilize the online platforms even more. Now, during COVID, one good thing that happened during this time, that is the utilization of online platforms that has taken information from the center to the grassroots level, and also information in terms of price, in terms of market opportunities. And now we can have utilize this platform for disseminating new technology, new crop technology, and new support to reduce wastage. So we can utilize this platform, and I think it's very important that we connect small farmers with that. In the industries, there are many other things that needs to be done. I just mentioned 2-3 things. There is time constraint. In the industry, I think we have tremendous success. And whenever I say industrialization, all the big industries, big garments, leather, pharmaceuticals, that come to our mind. But we know that even within garments, there are small and medium entrepreneurs, very small entrepreneurs, even in the garments. So we have to see that whether we can give opportunities to the small and medium entrepreneurs. And we have been talking about different things about supporting small and medium entrepreneurs. One thing I would like to say that now we have to take an approach of the supply chain approach. For example, if we can analyze the supply chain of some key products, for example, in the garments, so not looking at the big garments, but what is the supply chain of small RMG factories? What is the supply chain of small leather factories, and how do they operate? Why do they buy their inputs from? We always talk about export diversification, but we should also talk about diversifying import sources for raw materials. We have EPB, but we don't have a place where a small entrepreneur can know about where they can import raw materials at a cheaper price. So I think it's very important that we take a supply chain lens for the small entrepreneurs, look at their supply chain, not an average supply chain for the products, and act to improve the efficiency in that supply chain, starting from their raw material, whether it's domestically sourced or from foreign source, and to marketing it, and then linking them with the international market, which has become relatively more easier because of the online platforms. As I was saying, the Honourable Chief Guest was present the other day that UNDP is supporting an online platform for women entrepreneurs. It's called Anandomela. We are developing this whole online platform like Alibaba or Amazon. I'm talking big names, but it's now in small scale. And actually, we are doing it in part with the Women Chamber, so that after we give the support, this online platform is developed. This Women Chamber can, take the ownership of that and make it sustainable. So this is and our aim is to link very small entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs in this platform. So I think we need this kind of activities when we want to reduce inequality. In the service sector, I think government is doing tremendous. I would say it's very positive when I see the support towards startups. But I think when we talk about startup, immediately it's kind of an urban thing. Urban youths, urban students, they are more, close to these startups. But now time has come that this information about startups should go to the rural areas, and the possibility, a startup does not always mean only it has to be ICT and everything. There can be different initiatives, and I think if we can think of some startup model in the rural areas, especially utilizing agricultural possibilities in value-adding agriculture, and then rural youths can be very much part of that. And in that connection, it's very important to reduce education inequality. I think that is when Professor Yusuf was talking about creating employment for people, productive employment. I think we all know that many foreigners are working in Bangladesh, even at a workers level, even as an accountant, as textile experts, and so we need actually education working for the underprivileged family students. So now government during COVID, we have this. We have realized also that how online teaching is not an online education is not an alternative to face-to-face education, but online platform for education also has some create some opportunities. For example, if you look at the results of national big exams like SSC, HSC, you will see rural students lag behind English, maths, and science subjects. So I would like to draw attention of our chief guest today that whether it's possible that we utilize the online platform to where there will be good quality teachers in English, maths, and science subject who will be giving like a lecture once a month by rotation. And so there will be like every district, there will be a hub like this where they can give, they can tutor students of particular schools, especially in class 9 and 10. So I think this is an opportunity where they can learn from good quality teachers. At this moment, actually, Accelerator Lab in UNDP is supporting some initiative like this in 9 schools where we are connecting them with good quality teaching materials that can be utilized by their teachers in school, and later on they can use those PowerPoint presentation when they practice their education. And we are giving like a tablet to class 9 and 10 students, but temporary. It's not their ownership, it's school's ownership. So it's given to a group of students, and after their SSC exam, they will give it back to the school. So I think there are kinds of models that those are coming up to reduce education inequality, which is very important. I wouldn't say more. I have touched upon some things, and thank you very much for listening to my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Nazeen Ahmed. It is always good to hear your insightful remarks, and today was no exception. I really liked the way you kind of took the approach of considering the sectoral approach, like agriculture, industry, and services. I agree with the recommendations you made, and especially your observation on improving health, skill development, and educational opportunities for the lower income group or population in the backward regions, I think is the best possible way of dealing with inequality, which has been emphasized in this particular paper. We'd now like to hear from our eminent economist of the country, Professor Mustafizur Rahman. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Razzaque. Honourable Chief Guest, Minister, Mr. M A Mannan, Member of Parliament, Honourable Special Guest, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed, Member of Parliament, my fellow discussant, Dr. Nazeen, our friends from the Asia Foundation, dear audience. We have heard an excellent presentation from Dr. Yusuf, and I would like to congratulate the authors of the report. And also the video was really innovative, Dr. Razzaque. I didn't know that you have this quality as well amongst your many other qualities. So it was really very interesting and insightful. Thank you. I think the issues which have been highlighted in the presentation and in the excellent report are very important for Bangladesh as we go forward. And Dr. Razzaque in his initial remarks reminded us about the journey that we have taken and when and how it started. And I always remember that it's just not the Henry Kissinger's bottomless basket, which we often mention, but it is also some of our economists, international economists, how they looked at Bangladesh when in 1972 Bangabandhu took the helms of administration. And I always remember one of the very first books on Bangladesh was Bangladesh, the Test Case for Development. And very eminent economists who authored the book, Just Fallen and James Parkinson, they said that this country was born with so much difficulties that if development is possible in this country, it will be possible in any country. And that's why we have titled the book not A Test Case for Development, but Bangladesh, the Test Case for Development. Now, as Dr. Razzaque also mentioned, and Dr. Yusuf has also shown the path that we have taken over the last 5 decades, and we have genuine reasons to be proud of that. As Dr. Razzaque mentioned, in 1995, it was a $35 billion economy, and now it is $411 billion economy. And there are many other socio-economic indicators of which we can genuinely take pride in. But the issue that has been identified in this excellent report, which has been carried out by Rapid in collaboration with the Asia Foundation, I think this has become very important, because as we go forward, the old challenges will be replaced by new generation of challenges, and one of those is the issue of inequality. And we look at inequality not just from an altruistic perspective, that because we are good meaning people and we want that in the society there should be less inequality. It's just not that. That is an important part of our national culture, I think, that should be at least. But also because from an economist perspective, we also see that with greater inequality, future progress is constrained. Greater inequality means not only greater social tension, but also it means that concentration of income, wealth, asset in some hands, that also creates constrained demand in the society. And then when there is no demand, there is also no supply side response from the production side. And that impedes future growth. And Harvard economist Danny Roderick and others have shown that countries which have lower inequality, their prospect to generate rapid progress is higher than countries where there are high inequality. So amongst the economists and development practitioners and development policymakers, this has now become a very important perspective and lens to look at, that with higher inequality, we will not be able to generate high growth. I think that economic argument that it will constrain our demand, it will constrain our supply side responses is a very powerful tool. Previously, we used to think that when countries progress, there will be inverse U-shape type of distribution. First, there will be more inequality, and then when countries progress, there will be less inequality. But that is not the case. That's not how at present we look at it. We think that with distributive justice, more equitable distribution, countries will progress at a faster pace. Now, from that perspective, a number of issues have been put in the report. I think both the diagnostic part of it and the prescriptive part of it, both of these are very well argumented. And Dr. Nazeen has also mentioned a number of the more sectoral and micro level interventions that we need in order to generate that less inequality. And I think that one issue which we must give priority is the issue of domestic resource mobilization. I think it's a key issue. In fact, the philosophy between fiscal policies, domestic resource mobilization, is that there may be some inequality and there will be inequality in the income distribution, but then you tax through progressive taxation, you tax more the richer sections of the society, and then you spend it through public expenditure, which by definition is more friendly to the needs of those who have lower income. So at the second cycle, you reduce the inequalities by taxing those who have more income. So that's the philosophy behind the domestic resource mobilization argument. Now there, I think that there is a lot of things that we have to do, because with 9% of revenue GDP ratio, we cannot really have that second cycle of redistribution. And that's why Bangladesh's public expenditure at 18% of the GDP is one of the lowest even in South Asia and in the developing world. So and in South Asia, it is about 16%. So there is enormous opportunity for the policymakers to tap. And not that people are not paying taxes, but we are not being able to collect the taxes. That is also a major problem. There is so much leakage, and I'm not going into the corruption in the system, etc. So making use of the digital platforms and digital technology, interoperability of the system, coordination between Bangladesh banking sector, the National Board of Revenue, Anti-Corruption Commission, I think that can generate a lot of resources so that our public expenditure is not 19% of the GDP, but it is at least at par with the average in South Asia, which is 25-26% of the GDP. I'm not talking about developed countries where public expenditure is about 40 to 50% of the GDP. So deploying resources in order to generate higher domestic resources, I think that is a major issue that we should think about. Second, I think is, Nazeen has mentioned about agriculture. I was jotting down some of the points, and in my list, agriculture is at the top. In fact, I think that 42% of our labor is in agriculture, and that produces 13% of Bangladesh's GDP. So with 42% producing 13% means that even in the context of Bangladesh, if you look at productivity of labor, it is 1/3 in agriculture still. So enormous opportunity, and we cannot really leave agriculture behind. And one of the major strategies there should be to connect our people, our farmers to the global market. I think that is the next untapped opportunity that we have. Our farmers are paying for internationally imported irrigation equipments, machinery, etc., or the government will have to. Our government is giving subsidies to them to buy those, but they are not being able to sell in the international market. And there, I think, strengthening the sanitary phytosanitary measures, strengthening the quality, the tracing, all these the next generation of challenges in export market for agriculture will become very important. So their investment in those technologies and also soft side of it, tracing and everything, sanitary phytosanitary capacities will become very important. The other, I think, is if I take a sectoral approach in industries, obviously, I think intra-RMG diversification is also a very big opportunity. And as Nazeen also mentioned, there are also many SMEs. And there, I think the regional market is the next big opportunity for Bangladesh. If you look at the export structure, it's very much tilted towards European Union and North America, but regional countries and the regional market, this is Asian century. And there will be big demands from the Asian countries. India imports $400 billion. China imports $2,200 billion. Our export is, in India, it is $1.5 billion this year, maybe. It's a good year for exports to India. And in China, it is less than $1 billion. So how do we access the regional markets? And I think there, and the LDC graduation is coming, we will have to deepen our partnership with the regional countries with comprehensive economic partnership agreements so that we can develop the value chains, we can develop the production networks that targets the regional market, taking advantage of our comprehensive economic partnerships. I think that is the next frontier. With regard to education, really worrying, the government's SDG I was looking at the government's voluntary national review report for the SDGs, and there, if you look at the and Nazeen also mentioned about maths and English, the score with regard to in reference to the international measures is really the target was, I think, 60, and for maths and English it was, I think, about 15 or 20. So quality education is becoming very important. That is also one of the roots of increasing inequality. So I think that we should give priority, not just more investment, but also the sort of education that will give them employable. I think that is very important. One of the major weaknesses I can see in recent years is that many people are getting educated, but there is a mismatch between job market demands and the education. So their vocational education system and also tuned to the new demands of the job market. And there is a slide, if you have seen, slide number 19, where a graph was put from Dr. Razzaque's earlier research. And there, it's really scary. The employment elasticity of growth, you know, is coming down really very sharply. If you, I saw that between 2000 and 2003, it was about 0.9, and now it is about 0.2, meaning that for every percentage of growth, we are creating less and less jobs. And that will happen because going forward, it will be productivity enhancement. It will be more of productivity-driven growth. So the employment opportunities of every percentage of growth will be coming down. So which means that we will have to have more diversification, more supply side capacities, higher GDP growth in order to accommodate the 2 million people which are coming to the job market, the demographic, reaping the advantages of the demographic dividend. So this is also becoming very important. So education is also more equitable distribution, and education is also more faster economic growth, and education is also not bringing in foreign experts, but catering to the increasing demands of the economy with our own human resources, our own boys and girls. So that is, I think, a major issue that we should talk about. We should discuss how to do that, how to change the curricula, how to project where the future demands will be, just not in Bangladesh, but also outside, and then tuning our education system to that. So along with more higher educational expenditure, it is also more of a quality. And when we talk about, you know, from 2% to 4%, and health is also, it was mentioned in Dr. Yusuf's excellent presentation, it is also less than 1%, and it has to be 2% and 3% of the GDP. But we don't talk about where from we will decrease the percentages. So percentage is 100%. So when we increase from 2% to 4% for education, from 1% to 3% for health, where we will decrease? That is a pertinent question. Will we decrease from infrastructure, from other sector? Which sector? So increasing the pie, I think, is the solution. It's not so much, I think, percentages, because the practical sense for the policymakers, I can understand, is that it is very difficult for them to reduce percentages in order to increase percentages in some of the sectors. So that's a political decision. I don't see it coming. So increasing the resource generation, that should get the priority. And the last point is, obviously, there will be people who will be priced out of out of the market. And for them, social security. And I think that as Bangladesh is making progress, LDC graduation, middle income transition, I think it is very important that we have strong social security, and this is time for us to move from social safety nets to social security, universal health scheme, universal pension scheme. These are the aspirations that we should set ourselves as a post-LDC middle income country, and with the aspiration of the 2041, which sees Bangladesh as an economically developed, socially inclusive, and environmentally sustainable country. So I think that the issue of inequality will remain very much on the agenda, should remain very much on the agenda, and that Asia Foundation and RAPID have come together to address this particular issue is very important. We are seeing that and there was also mentioned in the presentation, and our own research also shows that the wage component in the national income as against the profit component is coming down. So this is very worrying, in fact. And these are government figures. These are not our own figures. It is BBS figures. So I think that the strategies to reduce inequality should get the priority from the policymakers. I know that the Honourable Planning Minister and in the 8th five-year plan and the vision document, this has a central place. But in terms of implementing those, in terms of reducing the inequality through domestic resource mobilization, through quality education, through strong social security programs, I think that is the next round of challenges that Bangladesh will have to address. And I would like to end by once again thanking Asia Foundation, Dr. Razzaque, RAPID, Dr. Yusuf for an excellent work. And I think that this is an ongoing work, and we should continue to do the good work. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I would like to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mustafa Rahman. As usual, your very thoughtful remarks. And also, I'm grateful to you because you have highlighted one particular issue that we also kind of explain in the paper. And I would like to repeat, I mean, just to make ourselves clear about this. Over time, I think in the near future, achieving economic growth or even high economic growth, I think is going to be relatively easy. Why? Because we're seeing technological progress. And Professor Mustafa Rahman, you have rightly pointed out. So when that happens, so essentially growth should not be a problem. So then the issue will be for us to tax those people, who are benefiting from the growth process, and then invest into the communities, that need that support. Otherwise, the whole society will be unequal. Let me give you one example of what the Western developed countries are now trying to do. I'm not saying that we need to follow them, but just to give you a bit of context. Now, some countries are now moving towards having a 3-day weekly holiday. Why? Because now the production is being produced by the machines. You see, the technological progress is there. So what they're doing, they are taxing, or they're going to tax, or they're collecting more revenues from the growth that is being generated from those machines, from their owners, and distributing it amongst the population so that the people, who they can spend a bit more time with their family. They can be more creative in other areas where they have passion for, or maybe they can find out niche area, reskill them, in terms of the need of the market. So that's one thing. In the context of Bangladesh as well, as Professor Mustafa Rahman, you cited those figures on employment elasticity, that will continue to happen. On many occasions, I have mentioned that over the past 10 years, we have seen in the context of Bangladesh, the export earnings from the garment sector has more than doubled. But have we been able to generate more than double employment in the sector? No, because of the, again, technological progress. So somehow we need to devise that taxation mechanism so that we can benefit. Now, going to that point, then what we can do in the services sector, we can create enormous amount of jobs. You say education, we can make the classroom smaller, so we can bring in more education on science, English, and other technological aspects. You see, and then our children will benefit. And more importantly, education and health are the best way of promoting the poor and vulnerable population segments, so that they can participate better. They are well prepared for the labor market changes. Technology will also bring a lot of disruptive changes. So I think we need to be ready for that. I just don't want to take more time on this issue because we are already running behind the original program that we had. But let me take a couple of questions from the chat box, and one question that I can say and maybe Professor Mustafa, you would like to respond to that question. The question is, before taxing the rich even more, should we focus more on increasing the tax base? And if I may also add to this, that there has been a lot of emphasis on collecting revenue from indirect taxation, for example, VAT, okay? But we do not provide enough emphasis on direct income tax, in my view, which is the most important vehicle for promoting some kind of, equal or equity in society. Just to give you an example, like between past 10 years, if you see, our per capita income has more than doubled. On the other hand, tax paid by per head tax paid by direct in taxpayer has not increased at all. So this is something quite extraordinary. Professor Mustafa, what would be your views if you would tell us in just in 1 minute? Thank you.
Yeah. No, Dr. Razzaque, I fully agree that if you compare with other countries, the direct taxation and indirect taxation ratio in Bangladesh is 1:2. About 33% is direct tax and 67% is indirect tax. And we know that indirect tax, it falls more on the relatively low income earning people. So in other countries, it is just the reverse. It's 70% is direct tax, either direct personal tax or company tax. So I fully agree. And I also agree that the tax base is something that we should try in a country of almost 165 million people, and the income distribution that you have said, and we get from the BBS and HIS data, we see that it's I think 1/4 we have been able to cover, and those also what we have covered, we haven't been able to really tap what we should get. So I think that it is both tax and enhance, widening the tax net, that is also important, and also getting the taxes that is there. There is a lot of leakages. We know people pay tax, but the government doesn't get it. That is also a major issue. So there, I think that I've seen studies that if you invest 1 taka in your revenue collection mechanism and institutions, you get 50, 60 times more. So sometimes I wonder why we are not making that investment, because it is so low hanging fruit, and their technology will be a major facilitating instrument in the hands of the government. So, but unfortunately, we see that for years after years, we don't really take those steps and don't do the reforms. Just look at some of the draft policies, direct tax policy, income tax policy. These are there in the drafting stage for 7-8 years after the drafts were prepared. Why? Whose interest is it that this doesn't get into the policy domain and remains in the drafting stage for years after years? So I think that there is a political economy also in it, not economics. Thank you, Dr. Razzaque.
Thank you, Professor Mustafa Rahman. I think this point is also important to highlight and to be highlighted again. With the 16% of GDP as public expenditure, probably we won't be able to be a more kind of economy that we would like to be in the next 10 years period, where our objective is to be the upper middle income country. And also for upper middle income country, the average allocation for health and education are much higher. So I think we need to be mindful of the milestones that we have set and what we're currently doing in terms of the policies that we have and in terms of its implementation.
Dr. Razack, just a point. You have mentioned 16%, and I think that it is very pertinent to recall that recently our GDP GNI estimates have been re-estimated. So all the percentages have come down. See, revenue GDP ratio, tax GDP ratio, all have come down because the denominator has increased. So this is also something that we should look at, that our denominator is increasing, but we are not getting the revenues that it should generate, and the percentages are coming down. Thank you.
You are so correct. When you drafted the paper, it was $350 billion economy, but now we know that from our ministers, I have seen the newspaper reports, he has been saying $411 billion, because of the rebasing of the economy. That's great. Now, I know Dr. Nazeen had to leave for his another appointment. At this stage, I would now like to request our keynote presenter, Dr. Abu Eusuf. If you have any remarks, Dr. Yusuf, I can give you only a couple of minutes. I hope you will understand. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Dr. Razzaque. I think I'm really grateful to Mr. Fizur Rahman sir for his very thoughtful inputs. Rightly pointed out that we need to focus on revenue generation and also public spending on our public expenditure is lower than Asian average, particularly our budget. National budget is 17% of our GDP, which has a room for improvement, I think, until 25% or 26%. And also he has rightly pointed out the skill development and other issues, quality of education. So I think at this stage I should not I should not talk too much, because we need to hear from our special guest and chief guest. Thank you, Dr. Razzaque.
Thank you so much, Professor Yusuf. In the chat box, there is a question that if the government is committed enough to ensure access of quality health and education. I think our honorable chief guest and our honorable special guest, they probably would make some comments on that. So at this stage, I believe it is time for us to hear from our special guest, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed MP. I would like to request Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed MP to deliver his address now. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to everyone present. I would like to thank Asia Foundation and Rapid for arranging today a very timely discussion on inclusive growth. Our honorable chief guest, the Minister of Planning for the Government of People's Republic of Bangladesh, Mr. M A Mannan, distinguished panelists, distinguished keynote speaker, and all other invited guests and friends of the media who are present over here. I would like to start my speech by marking that this year is 2021. It is the 50th year of our independence, which we will be celebrating next month under much fanfare, though under COVID circumstances. I would like to pay homage to the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, without whom Bangladesh would not have come into being, and we would not be discussing the success story that is known around the world as Bangladesh. I would like to pay homage to all the martyrs of 1971 who gave their todays for our tomorrows. I would like to pay homage to all the other martyrs of different democratic movement, and I would like to start my speech by saying we're living under a very special circumstances right now. The whole world is going through a pandemic of COVID-19. Since 2020 March, the world has entered an era that has not been seen for over 100 years right now. The last time it was seen was in 1918 to 1920 at the very fag end of the First World War, which became known as the Spanish flu, during when almost 50 to 100 million people are believed to have died. There was a significant number in the subcontinent of which Bangladesh was a part then. But we are now living in circumstances where we are perceived to be doing better than many other countries in the neighborhood and around the world as well. And I would like to give the whole credit to our Honourable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, under whose leadership Bangladesh is being able to be guided and taken to a new heights of development, not only in the standards of Bangladesh, but around the globe. It is being held out as a exemplary nation. I would also like to say that over at this time, one of the main factors of our discussion today is inclusive growth. We know that Bangladesh has been growing very rapidly in the last like 10, 12, 15, and 30 years in different matrices of the Human Development Index, from education to women's right to child mortality to all the other matrices we have. We do know that in 2000, the MDG, the Millennium Development Goal that was given, the 8 points, by 2015, Bangladesh was one of the success stories of the MDG. At the same time, right now, the SDG is being monitored by the Honourable Prime Minister very minutely to see that all the 17 points get implemented by 2030, or we are on the path to meeting those targets. I would like to say, we do know that we're having a great stride in our development and a growth spurt for the last 10 years. We've been growing at 6, 7, 8% at different years over the last decade. Even during this pandemic time, we have been growing around 5 to 6% GDP growth for the country. And our economy is now believed to be $411 billion according to the government sources. And we do know that the rebasing has been done for the economy, for which our per capita income has gone over $2,000 right now. One of the main things that we have, our Honourable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in 2009 gave a target that by 2021, we will be a middle income country and we will be a digital Bangladesh. Both the goals have been met and more work is going on to make them a complete success. But also we have a target right now by 2041 for Bangladesh to be a developed country. For that, our GDP, our per capita income from 2000 will have to go to 12,000. That is a huge amount of growth that we're talking about over the next 20 years. And for that growth to happen, all the ingredients have to be right, from education, from healthcare, from infrastructure, from law and order, from the rule of law. All these things have to be put right over the next 20 years to make that growth happen for us to reap the benefit in 2041. But also at the same time, over this 20 years, a lot more income and money is going to be generated in the economy as a whole. For that, the discussion today is that are we going to look at a country that is even more lopsided than it is now? Or are we going to be able to look at a country in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, that we have a more equitable distribution of wealth throughout the society? And I would like to thank the presenter today for bringing out all the keynote speaker today for bringing out all the different ingredients of the information that we need to go forward. And our key panelist, Dr. Mustafa Rahman, rightly pointed out many of the aspects that we need to work on. And one of the main things that we do have is the issue of taxation. Bangladesh is one of the few countries with more indirect taxation than direct taxation. And for that to happen, the VAT and all of the indirect taxation falls on the underprivileged people more so than privileged people. And for that to be rectified, we need to bring more people under direct taxation. And this is a very interesting information. Though our income has gone up, per capita income has gone up very highly, but the number of people who have come under the direct taxation has not increased substantially. And there's a lot of people who are working in the service sector whose incomes are not getting registered, that be the medical practitioners or education professionals, many other legal professionals, many other professionals who are not fully reporting all their incomes. But also we have, at the same time, an economy where we are saying we want to enter the modern era. So we have to do modern trade and the way of doing business. But we still have all the different businesses and small enterprises and shops who are giving flat rate of VAT, whereas many other businesses have to give their exact VAT to the government. And that there is a lack of equity in that distribution as well between the businesses who are having an uneven competition. I would like to say that we are also living in a time where Bangladesh over the last 40 years has seen a tremendous success in our private sector. And of course, the most talked about sector in that is our ready-made garments industries. But right now, Bangladesh is also entering a lot more economic activities that we are seeing. We used to be known 20 years ago as a country of ship breakers, but now we're entering a phase where we can become a country of ship makers as well. And I would like to point out, if you look to our nearest near neighbor, China, which has a population of 1.4 billion people, but right now, most of their light manufacturing is getting priced out and moving to other countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh. We need to get our key ingredients right so that all the other light to medium manufacturing that is going to move out not only from China, but also from Korea, also from Hong Kong, also from Singapore, many other countries, that we are able to attract those FDIs, the foreign direct investment, to make the private sector more robust and to have a more diverse economic field from where we are doing our activities. I would also like to say a lot of good points were made regarding the quality of education and the skills level. Of course, if we compare ourselves to the English or math score that are internationally recognized, we are very much behind right now. So we must make sure that the right levels of growth of skills are done in our future citizens now, so they are able to operate at a global level in 10, 20, 30 years' time. At the same time, one of the main things that are being discussed right now around the globe is the health sector, because COVID-19 has given a very glaring light on the lack of health facilities in many of the developing countries. And we are also at a place where we need to strengthen our health sector as well, so it is able to give the services to all the people at different communities and far off regions in the country. And one very good point was made by our keynote speaker, that there's a equity, the geographical equity is a thing to be questioned. There are many districts that have fallen behind compared to many of the successful districts, and I think 7 or 9 districts were pointed out whose level of poverty are higher. And we do know that different regions have different economic competency. So we need to work more assiduously and look at more minute details, how we can bring those regions at a more national scale. I would not like to take too much of the time. I would like to hear the Honourable Chief Guest giving more informed information to all of us as what the government's plans are and what we are doing. But of course, we are going through a particular phase where Bangladesh is looked at as a role model of economic development. And our Honourable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been able to steer the nation from 2009 to now. If you look at all the different indicators, most of them are in a very positive set of informations right now. And our Prime Minister has been able to do things that were lacking in the country, from not only a social safety net that has been introduced from widow stipend to VGF card to all the other different stipends we have at different rural levels and urban levels. All those things have been able to give some social safety net to our different regions in the country. We need to increase that. And of course, the point that has been made that the income redistribution needs to happen in Bangladesh, because over the next 20 years, we'll keep having this discussion as we keep having 6, 7, 8% growth to going towards a developed country, because we are reaping the demographic dividend very positively compared to other countries which become failed nations when they fail to reap the dividends of the demographic dividend. We need to make sure that the fruits of that dividend is shared by the population as a whole. So I would like to thank Rapid and Asia Foundation for all the different informations they brought together. It has given us much food for thought to take into policy making levels. I would like to ask them to keep this dialogue going. I would again like to congratulate to all of my fellow citizens on the 50th year of our independence. And I wish you all good health, stay safe, stay well. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed. Indeed, it was heartening to listen to you. You have so nicely captured, I think, all the important points that have been reflected in the paper and also in the discussion. So thank you so much for your time. At this stage, I think it is my honor to request our chief guest, Mr. M A Mannan MP, I would like to request him to deliver his address. Now, Mr. M A Mannan MP, Honourable Minister for Planning, Government of Bangladesh. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Razzaque. Thanks to everyone present here today, beginning with my respected colleague in the Parliament, Kazi Nabil Ahmed, MP, and of course, the organizers, meaning both Rapid and Asia Foundation, who have joined hands and organized this discussion on a matter of very high importance to us, high importance to any society at any moment, more for us because we are going through a period of transformation. We are going through a period of what is called economic development, which very much desired and fought for in our own lifetime. There are two aspects of the war of liberation. First was, of course, to gain back the control of the lands, our fatherland, in our own hand. And the other was ensuring or creating a situation where our citizens can work in dignity and honor and enjoy a meaningful life with all the creature comforts that is usually ordinarily available to other civilized people elsewhere. Why? Because these were not available here. That's a fact that has to be recorded. We were colonized first, so the land was very important for us to get back our own land. And because we were colonized, we were exploited, cheated out of our own resources and incomes and our own productions. So we were very poor, dirt poor almost. So from those two starting points, due to very hard work by our great people, first the work in the Liberation War, they fought, they gave their life in millions under the leadership, as Kazi Nabil Ahmed has already said in detail about Father of the Nation and our martyrs. I won't repeat those here again. Of course, we all have permanent respect towards our shaheeds and the Father of the Nation. Now, this word inclusive, we keep on bumping into this word wherever we go. Kazi Nabil, myself, you, others. In some periods of time, some words do come up in your discussions, in your literature, and inclusion is the word nowadays, at least for a person like me who is not a mainstreamer like all of you in this development, economics or development studies or these things. It's a very catchy word. I really can't get to the grips what it is finally. I really don't know. You spread the net, you include everybody. That's okay. But then does it also allude to, even not mean, allude to a concept, a situation of equity, fairness, justice? That is what my concern is, because you use the word political economy quite often in your discussions. You recognize that whatever you do, whatever we are doing, the political economy aspect of the matter is very important, because Professor Mustafiz was quite clear about it. There are areas in our, despite the fact that very tremendous transformation is taking place, in gross terms, gross GDP is about $411 billion. You said it's my figures you quoted. I don't remember. And then per capita income now about 2,554. This one I remember. And of course, life expectancy, slightly better medical care than our parents had, but slightly, considerably better medical care. Having power or electricity in every home, that's one great leap forward for our people during this time. Despite all this, I wish, or Kazi Nabil, I wish all could also join with me in saying that, yes, we've included all, but we have been we have also been fair to all. We have all been just to everyone. Every citizen has been rewarded in proportion to his or her level of her contribution to the national economy. There is a big yawning gap in this area, I think. And there is a political economic question arises. Okay, this is an ongoing question. This will continue. This is a political question. So parties after parties will fight elections, give manifestos, and will try to pursue this goal. But personally, I feel, given the global situation or given the environment as a whole, I don't think having fair or equitable or just reward for every citizen in our lifetime, I don't think it will be feasible here in Bangladesh at this moment. So the political economic question is now being addressed by our party in a sense that, okay, we know there are differences, there are even regional differences, there are professional differences, but then again, let us fight hunger first. Let us fight at the bottom line of the economy, where most of these 20% people, by our estimate, will live. So our strategy, consciously, I would say, has been to see that level at the poverty is reduced. Per capita income at that level is pushed upwards, so that they at least have better life than they're having now. Now is one almost very near hunger. That's not acceptable. So that was our immediate short-term goal, where we have done fairly well. But our mid-term goal or medium-term goal still remains to reach an equitable system where everyone is rewarded according to everyone's contribution. Now, I have heard Professor Mustafa is giving details. I can't go into those details because I am not trained in that line. I've heard Nazeen also. Nazeen's presentation, she probably laid out some strategic areas where we could work. The government could put in more efforts, invest more, and then she thought, and I quite agree with her, that maybe this question of equity, better inclusiveness, fair inclusiveness, just inclusiveness, fair inclusiveness can be achieved. She brought in the role of agriculture, which still remains the backbone for economy, where most people are still employed. So that was, I think, a very strategically very important issue she raised. Well, I had some notes jotted down here, and surprisingly, agriculture is the number one in my list also, as in Nazeen's. So agriculture is the area I think we have to look further in. How you do it, you give us ideas. Our economists in the government, of course, they give us ideas, give advice to the Prime Minister and to us in the Ministry of Planning and Ministry of Finance and other ministries also. But this is one area where most of the ills, that's my personal opinion, most of the inequities of the past are inherent in our agriculture. Most people work here, most people are shortchanged here, most people suffer here. So that's one area I think Kazi Nabil, and for me, if he agrees with me, we have to look further into. And also the head of the government, the Prime Minister herself, I think she's aware of this, but we have to find a way about how to go about addressing this particular issue. And Nazeen mentioned about mechanization, the question of subsidies, etc. That is a very well-known way. Our government has recently started on a program of mechanization, which is a good beginning, I would say, and probably would take us further than where we were only a little while ago. Other issues of literacy is very important in this context. In literacy also, we have reached about mid-70s now, 74.5%. Well, again, in terms of quality, in terms of depth, I can't say how much. Is it just merely reading out like pictures or like seeing pictures, or we really can comprehend? Those are issues that we have to look into now. But it's about 75% plus being literate, 15 plus people. That's a leap forward. And I'm sure in the next 5 to 10 years, the remaining 20%, 25% should be cleared. So that may be another step forward towards achieving fairer and a better and more inclusive society. Skills and training, etc., are very important issues here again, because as you move out of agriculture, is bound to, that's been happening all over the world. As you move out into off-farm employment, off-farm areas, or into industrial areas, or in other related areas, we need to have skills to be accommodated there. There's a huge gap here again, historically. We have not been a very entrepreneurial or a very scientific society, or very inquisitive society even, or even a society which questions its own thoughts and beliefs. We are not very well known to doing that. Now that does not fall from the sky, that has to be cultivated from inside. Others have done it, but we have not done it. We did not do it because the people who ruled us did not want us to do it. But now that we have it in our hand, Nabil and me, we can't just sort of shy away from here and say, well, it's from the past. We have to address this question now. So this is a very important issue, I think, in this context of the discussion that you are holding today. Raising literacy, raising skill level, but raising the level of overall, what I would say, inquisitiveness or overall right to question and right to seek answers. How we do it, I'm not an expert, I don't know, but I'm sure Pandits in your field and other fields have ways of doing that. But I must admit one thing, it's a political economic question, and the ball must be played by Kazi Nabil and me and Sheikh Hasina before others join us. And we realize it. That's a must question for us at this moment. In this context, to speed up things, another aspect is legislation. Now, having said that there are ills of the past, injustices of the past, since we recognize it, since we agree that there are injustices carried over from the past, and since we are a people with a parliament, since we are a people who, like Nabil, myself, Sheikh Hassan and others, if we realize that this is wrong, we must go about and seeing that how to address it through legislative measures. That's also our responsibility now. So we have to be, this again a political economic question, we have to go to the parliament, and known areas of injustices can be knocked down. Some our forefathers in the early 50s, Bhumi, Jomidari, Biluptwain, Jerakolam, this what is it called in English? Zamindari Abolition Act or whatever, when we abolished the Zamindari system of the past and gave lands to the landholders, although not fully carried out, there were tricks were resorted to by very smart people, and they undid most of the good, but step was taken. So there are more that we can do in this area through legislation. That was my main message. Legislation can be undertaken in removing these very known and very clear barriers on our path towards a better and more generous and more rightful society in Bangladesh. So these are very off-the-cuff points that I made out of my own, just from hands-on experience in life. And I thank once again Professor Yusuf and Professor Razzaque and Professor Mustafiz and others that they do consider me, that I could be present around and I could hear and enjoy their company. Thank you for this confidence. I'm very inquisitive. I want to hear you speak, and I learn from your speeches. So this was another occasion. I am grateful for that, and I hope we all have a good time. And this seeking inclusiveness, fairness, justice continues to remain during our lifetime and beyond. And I hope it is settled not very late, but as early as possible. Having said that, I must thank you once again and close my machine, maybe because I have to rush to another place, to another meeting. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangabandhu.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We always appreciate your very candid and thoughtful remarks. And today you have also left some questions, for us, which I'm sure will inspire us, to do more work. And hopefully, we'll be able to share some of the responses to your queries, in the upcoming meetings. But as I said, from Rapid, we are always very grateful, for your kind presence and especially today. That you made it convenient to attend this particular program. Thank you once again. Now at this stage, I would like to request Mr. Kazi Faisal bin Shiraz, Country Representative Asia Foundation, for making some concluding remarks and offer a vote of thanks. Mr. Kazi Faisal bin Shiraz.
Thank you so much. I think we are already way above our time. Honorable Planning Minister, I think, is about to leave. So thank you so much.
Yes, Faisal, thank you, Faisal. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you too, sir.
We are neighbors when he was a little kid. I was a senior man. He was a little kid living next door to us. Thank you. Nice seeing you here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I wanted to, first of all, mention that this particular objective of today's event has been also to celebrate. So I have heard many times that after coming back and working in Bangladesh after about 11 years, that I have heard it many times that people saying that we don't know how to celebrate. We are very, very critical. We are very, very always wanting more, which is part of our resiliency and characteristics, but we often do not know how to celebrate. So I think the milestones that we have achieved needs to be celebrated, and this is one objective of today's meeting and today's seminar. We also heard that today, this year is the 50th anniversary of our independence, and also 100th birthday of our beloved father of the nation. We also recently graduated, heard the good news that we are going to graduate out of least developed country. So within our lifetime, these are each milestones that are to be celebrated. And I think without the interruption of COVID-19, we would have actually celebrated them the way we wanted, in a more festivity and more fun-filled way. But unfortunately, COVID dampened our celebration, but I believe that it didn't dampen our spirit at all. And under the leadership of current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, we have been resilient, and we have been resilient enough to do better than many other countries who has been unfortunate in this very difficult pandemic time. So we heard about pro-growth approach towards development today, and as Professor Mustafizur mentioned about the pie, we need to get the pie bigger and bigger, but at the same time, we need to also make sure that within those bigger pies, everything is distributed according to equity and justice and fair share of things. I won't take more time other than thanking the Honourable Planning Minister for giving us the time, and also Honourable Member of Parliament, Kazi Nabil, for being with us in this very, and giving us this time within this very busy schedule that we have, and your insights and your comments have been very helpful and noted. I would also like to thank Professor Mustafizur Rahman and also Dr. Nazeen for their, as always, very insightful comments and very knowledgeable remarks on the matter. And of course, Dr. Razzaque and Dr. Yusuf from Rapid, brilliant presentation. Thank you so much for your hard work to make this very successful event. And finally, our colleagues, including Sofia and Aini, who are here for managing all the logistics, and also Sofia being being our regional director of economy is also a thought leader within the organization. So thank you, Sofia, for your assistance and for your initiative on this topic. And the participants, thank you very much for making your time listening to us. Hopefully you have found it as useful as I did, and media partners especially for coming here in numbers and participating. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I think that concludes this webinar. And thank you all once again for being with us today. And we look forward to seeing you again in one of our upcoming events pretty near future, I would think so. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy anniversary to Bangladesh.
Thank you, Sofia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Razzaque bhai, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sofia. Faisal, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Razaque.
Okay. Dr. Razzaque, Faisal, Dr. Yusuf, everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.